let's talk about some politics and maybe some race wars, maybe some January 6th rioters. What do you think?
Poly.
It's Latin for many.
Tick.
Now suck your blood. Now suck.
Politics.
Is it all those other things too? What was the
I
other
think
thing?
so.
So there was, what was it? There was
January 6th rioters. I think we could throw in there. Maybe race wars.
Race wars.
So many options.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Are we
Should have done this before. That's
race
my
wars.
Race war.
I've warned you and warned you and warned you.
Race war. What was the other thing?
I don't know. There's also like FBI psyops. There's so many things that this is, and my soundboard is still broken. So I wish I could help, but I cannot.
This was an NSA-style hybrid war psyops.
There we go. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. This is one of the bigger news stories over the weekend here, but a lot of reporting coming out this morning. I'm taking this from CNN, and there's a reason for this. It will become clear in a little while. And dang, my highlight went away too. But the headline is, the 31 people arrested in Idaho have ties to a white nationalist group and plan to riot at a pride event, police say. Here's what we know. And surely you've heard this already, folks, but well, we're going to dig in, and also don't call me Shirley. It goes like this. After an alarmed 911 caller reported a group dressed like a little army, in quotes, getting into a moving truck, police in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, arrested 31 men believed to be linked to a white nationalist group who had plans to riot at a weekend pride event, authorities said. 31 guns. Ooh, so close. If only it was 33. Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps there's a clue. Now, keep in mind, one of the fun reasons, there's a couple of reasons we chose to take this from CNN, but also one of those is as we continue to observe and report about the changes going on at CNN, moving from, CNN fear peddling liars to some version.
Less lying. Not that it's free of lying, just less obvious lying.
No, just more traditional,
traditional lying. Yeah, more traditional propaganda. Let's bring it back to
traditional
2005.
propaganda and journalism, and not some sort of entertainment product. The large group, which police believe was affiliated with Patriot Front. Listen to CNN's sort of arm's length that they are attesting that these individuals are, racists or white supremacists or whatever. So far, again, this is CNN, which is notable to point out that they're saying things such as, which police believe was affiliated with Patriot Front. And that language will become actually pretty hilarious once some of the more details are put out here. Was seen at a hotel piling into a U-Haul with riot gear. The caller told a 911 dispatcher. They were later pulled over and arrested, Coeur d'Alene Police Chief Lee White said. So there's a 911 call, said they were at a hotel. They saw 30 guys piling into the back of a U-Haul and called the cops.
Wearing masks? Were they
wearing
their masks and matching
all
garb?
Dressed up in the exact garb. So, folks, if you don't remember, Patriot Front, I have a little bit of history we'll go over later, but Patriot Front is also the same group who marched at the Capitol building in December, where they were all wearing the same clothes, khaki pants, blue shirt, khaki hat, and white what are they called? Gators.
Gators, yeah.
They're gators. I've seen them in different articles described as balaclavas. You know that? Have you heard this term, Gons? Balaclava
loosely.
is like a ski mask, but it's like it sounds very sort of Russian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, but these are just gators,
reference.
the kind that Fauci said you could wear to protect yourself from COVID. Anyway, so they're seen piling into a U-Haul, dressed in all uniform. And somebody saw that and said, that That's a little weird. I should probably tell somebody about this. The group was headed to a Pride in the Park event at Coeur d'Alene City Park, police said. The event included a pride walk and performances by local musicians, dancers, and drag artists. Certainly an inflammatory thing there at the end. I've never heard the term drag artists, but they are artists, apparently.
How dare you diminish their
Oh, I just did not know. I've never heard. I knew fushigi was an art form. Local and state police were plentiful and on high alert Saturday because they wanted, quote, to make sure this event went off safely. Mayor Jim Hammond said they'd also received threats about a separate group meeting in another city park, threats that turned out to be unfounded, he said. Hammond referred to those...
Why mention it then?
Exactly.
But okay.
Why mention it at all?
Unless they're implying that they're all part of the same white nationalist group.
Well, and I'm just going to say it now. There was a moment when it occurred to me, we've been following the FBI sort of pattern where they radicalize some kid and then trick him into committing a crime, equipping him, training him, and then right when he's about to do it, they arrest him and take all the credit for doing so. It kind of felt like in this story as it goes that it was kind of like a PR event for the cops more than anything. But I don't know. Let's continue. Hammond referred to those arrested as young men who, quote, seemed to not have a purpose. Okay. Asked what he thought the group might have done had police not. So, Gons, they're all wearing the exact same clothes. As we'll hear, they had some equipment in the car. They're piled into a U-Haul. And when asked, what do you think they were doing? You say, they're just young men who don't have a purpose. Seems like a pretty purposeful activity to be participating in. Piling into a back of a U-Haul with your best friends all dressed in uniform.
It's not like they had pamphlets to hand out to people or something.
Oh, didn't they? Quote, I have not seen that these people had any firearms, so I think it would have mostly just disruption and tried to cause fear. Ooh, no guns.
What about, no guns. I think they had other things, though, right? They had like shields and spears.
Police found at least one smoke grenade.
Oh, for their escape, obviously. It's not to hurt anybody.
It's a ninja escape.
Their escape bomb.
Smoke bomb.
Smoke bomb, yeah.
All 31 individuals were from outside the local area, Hammond said previously. Just 2 were from Idaho, according to a booking summary from the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office.
Kootenai.
That number keeps changing. By the way, this article has recently been updated. Things have changed since we saw it before.
I told you. I was worried about it, but you kept
No.
pressing.
Well, we knew this happens. They do this.
I know.
It's unclear why they picked Coeur d'Alene's out of all the Pride events going on in the nation. But Hammond said perhaps they thought they could, quote, get away with more in a smaller community like Coeur d'Alene, a city of about 56,000 residents located just over the Washington border from Spokane. I did not know Coeur d'Alene only had 56,000 residents. That is much, much smaller than I thought it was.
And how many of those are Canarians? I'd say
a pretty good proportion.
6,000.
Some of our biggest meetups have been in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
The North Idaho Pride Alliance, which organized the event, released a statement Sunday saying its members were resting after successfully organizing a momentous, joyful, and safe Pride in the Park community celebration under the most challenging of circumstances. We are deeply grateful to law enforcement agencies who were present and professionally responded. Here's what we know about the arrest.
Police?
Thank you. That is one of the big points that I was receiving in the messaging here was, hey, no, we don't want to defund the police anymore. We want to fund the police because they protect our Pride events and they get the bad guys, they get the racists. And yeah, it was really, that's what I mean. It was like a real good PR event for the Coeur d'Alene Police Department. Police received report of a group dressed like a little army. There was a large police presence, and then it kind of repeats a lot of the stuff that we just talked about. They talk about the 911 call. the concerned citizen. And here's where we get into some of the other things. Police, here we go. The group was equipped with shields and masks and looks like a little army, the caller said, according to White, about 10 minutes after the call. So shields and masks. And these are the same things that you can see in the old articles from December when they marched on the Capitol. A building or something. They had these shields, like police riot shields that they carried with them. And if you remember, folks, when this same group dressed in their funny outfits all together, wearing their white masks and things like this, the 100% of analysis that we are really getting from most people, and, kind of including, and I'm talking about independent media, was like, this is the most fed boy, fed event, federal, fed boy group that we have ever seen. I mean, straight up fed boys walking around. And we'll get more into that in a second. About 10 minutes after the call, officers stopped the U-Haul and detained 31 people, White said. They were charged with misdemeanor conspiracy to riot. The group was dressed similarly, wearing khaki pants, blue shirts, hats, and plastic inside them. Okay, hats with plastic inside them. Ooh, the chief said. They were also equipped with, quote, shields, shin guards, and other riot gear. Shin guards, Gons. Can you imagine?
Is the plastic reference to some kind of climate change thing? Or like, look at how irresponsible these people. Look at the plastic is probably getting to their minds. That's why they're so racist.
I don't know. I thought it was strange too. I know that there are hats,
or maybe it's like like a military, not military hats, but some kind of implying confrontation.
Weighted hats. You know what I'm talking about. They basically make baseball hats that are like also weapons.
Right.
Like they're weighted that you can swing them at people. But I don't think that's plastic. Maybe that's like, some of them have flashlights built in and stuff. I don't know. Along with papers, White, that's the police chief, described as, quote, similar to an operations plan that a police or military group would put together for an event.
Oh, quote, maybe the organizers know how that stuff works and then are replicating
it's almost like,
for some
papers similar to an operations plan that like the FBI might have if they are staging some sort of presence. I don't know. Quote, it is clear to us, based on the gear that the individuals had with them, the stuff they had in their possession, in the U-Haul with them, along with paperwork that was seized from them, that they came to riot downtown. It came to riot, Gons. Quote, I think some of us were a bit surprised by not only the level of preparation that we saw, but the equipment that was carried and worn on these individuals, along with a large amount of equipment that was left in the van when the stop happened. Shin guards, Gons. They're talking about shin guards. White said at a news conference Monday, quote, that level of preparation is not something you see every day, the chief said. Isn't that funny? It's just like they're so prepared. That level of
preparation every day, police chief.
So prepared. It was crazy. It was prepared. And after our, so we had a destruction of all our material before the show we had to put together, and one of the ones that I had was a quote from the fella. Oh, maybe this is in our next piece of thing. Anyways, there is the fella who's in charge kind of mentioned like, yeah, we did this just to show that we could be prepared, that we're organized, that we're disciplined, that's why we had all this stuff. Like, okay, city, state, and Kootenai County Police. I'm so sorry. I know we have Coeur d'Alene listeners. I do not know how to pronounce your county. Kootenai County Police responded with 2 SWAT teams, White said. Quote, I don't think this would have been as successful had we not had one extremely astute citizen who saw something that was very concerning to them and reported it to us, he said. So it's a see something, say something
ad.
Would be,
the level of education of our listeners and, maybe like in the future as people get aware, what if the police report, instead of, hey, we saw some guys getting in a van or whatever, is, hey, the feds have organized another situation here. Can you guys...
The FBI, they're getting in the U-Haul.
We saw the little operation happening, and we saw them get in the van. So maybe shut it down for us, or maybe you guys are part of the problem.
As an American citizen, please stop the government from doing whatever they're going to do. Officials aren't releasing the identity of the caller to protect that person. Okay. Was it a snitch? Was it a informant, or was it really just a person?
Oh, informant, maybe?
Right? I just think it's possible. Quote, since myself and the other members of our agency have been receiving threats, including death threats, I think it's appropriate that we withhold that person's information at the time, the chief said. Okay, pretty weird thing to just throw in there. You're getting your
threats
boys.
from who?
You're getting death threats from who? And is it related to this? You're getting death threats
some guy
for
that gets death
stopping
threats.
a U-Haul filled with Army men? Okay, I guess we'll just move on. Cool. The men were released after posting bond, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office said. They're due back in court at a later date. I don't think they mentioned it here. It was mentioned in another article. Because it was a misdemeanor, their bond each was $300. So pretty easy to get out.
A lot of this stuff... we have like a little boots on the ground, Basil.
Oh, yes. Maybe that's where a lot of this information that I have.
I think you mentioned two or
the
three
individuals
things from that.
came from a dozen states. So they're saying they're coming from all over the place. None of them were from Coeur d'Alene. One of the interesting pieces of info that is shifting article by article is the ages. CNN says the youngest is 20 years old and the oldest is 40, according to the summary. I saw in other mainstream reporting that the youngest was 21 and the oldest was 36. So that keeps changing. Interesting. Coeur d'Alene police are leading an investigation. Here's a fun part. Coeur d'Alene, so there's 31 people arrested, Guns. Coeur d'Alene police are leading an investigation with the FBI's assistance. FBI spokesperson Sandra Yee Barker. That's it. They didn't say said or anything. The sentence is, Coeur d'Alene police are leading an investigation with FBI's assistance. FBI spokesperson Sandra Yee Barker. Police arrested at least 2 other people in connection with the Pride event, authorities said. They were charged with disorderly conduct and trespassing, police said. Okay. So the 31
here?
Yeah.
Was it, why are they different from the 31?
We have 30. Why are they even mentioned in this article at all? And
right
coincidentally,
the police
mentioned in the article
with the FBI
right after the only mention of the FBI. The only sentence that the FBI shows up in this article is followed by 2 more people got arrested because of disorderly conduct and trespassing, which does technically, Gons, bring the total up to 33 people arrested.
But they had 2 spies.
We got there. We got there, folks. I know. I thought the same thing. The chat has been going crazy. Are you kidding me? Only 31? That literally never happens. Oh, but CNN, they weren't going to leave you hanging, folks. They added the 2 in there. We got the 33. Boom. Signaling received. Now, long story short, one of the big news items about this whole thing is that Thomas Ryan Rousseau, who is a 23-year-old fella, was arrested with them. Thomas Rousseau is allegedly the leader of Patriot Front, which is a group that broke off from, if you remember, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, where a woman died after one of the crazy guys drove a car through the protest group. That was a group called Vanguard America, a alleged hate group, racist thing. After that Charlottesville incident, basically, I read a really long breakdown of what happened. More or less, Thomas Ryan Rousseau exacted sort of a coup over the Vanguard America group, like internally, and took over the racist group. and changed the name, changed the branding, a big long analysis about how he was, a graphic designer and a video producer, a young kid. He was like 18 at this time. And he took over this Vanguard America white nationalist group, renamed it Patriot Front, redid all the branding himself, and started becoming some sort of, I don't know, CNN formerly CNN would have called him some sort of militia leader or something,
Yeah, they're probably starting to like him. They're like, hey, this guy can really take over some things. Maybe we can. It's
a really interesting long story about this Thomas Ryan Rousseau fella and how he cooed, he insurrected his own white nationalist group and took it from the former leaders. Rousseau, let's see here. CNN reached out to Rousseau's attorney. Coeur d'Alene residents and businesses have long made clear. Yeah. So that was the big one. It's funny that CNN is reporting like, oh, we think that these guys are tied to the Patriot Front group. All signs are looking as to that might be the case. It's like, yeah, the leader of the group is literally there, and you arrested him. So, okay, all right. Well,
they don't want to be too. The only person that would kind of be shady about that are the very people that would be involved. Oh, we don't know. It's like Shifty Eye. Like, we don't know if he is or isn't. Yeah. Looking around
it's suspiciously non-committal to a pretty obvious fact of the matter.
He said he's the head guy, so what's the holdup?
And it's funny. You look at, so they have his mugshot here, and he just straight up looks like a Civil War veteran. Like, he's just straight up looks like, he's got the beard, but the mustache that is a little longer than the beard, it kind of looks like he's got kind of a plantation owner look. Got some long, sort of slicked back hair. He looks like it almost looks like a picture of a Confederate soldier from the Civil. Definitely got to look. But as recently as 2018. There's pictures of him, and he's just a literal child.
Little boy.
He's just a literal child. He's baby-faced. He's fresh-faced. He's a pretty small guy. So there you go. There's the story. Now, one of the fun parts about this happening in Coeur d'Alene is that we have a lot of producers there, boots on the ground Canarians, and thank God, actually, one of our boots on the ground producers got some excellent opportunities to talk with these guys after the event. I believe this was after they got out on bail.
Yeah.
After they got out on bail, they took to the streets and were like talking to people and spreading pamphlets and stuff. Just immediately went into like PR mode, which makes me wonder if perhaps this was even planned by Thomas Rousseau himself.
Well, knowing the bail, $300 is not that much money. Like, you can probably, and what's that? 30 guys? Was it 9
30
grand?
guys is a few grand, but they're 10
grand. It's possible, and for a marketing, 10 grand for
as
that
a publicity stunt.
That's
Hello?
cheap. Yeah, make it happen.
He's had his picture on the front page of every major news outlet today. He they just happen to have nothing actually illegal.
Right.
Nobody had any guns. Nobody had any, they had shields, and the shields aren't illegal. They had, I guess a piece of paper that had some plans on it or something. But they basically all get out unscathed. Some of the sort of suspicious things in this situation is all the video and the pictures of the arrest when they took the guys out of the U-Haul and got them on their knees, zip tied their hands, their whole thing. They're all arrested.
Video for people watching right now. We're showing some people that videotape.
A bunch of guys, and they all still have their mask and their sunglasses on.
And their hats.
And their hats. Some of them are wearing backpacks.
One guy has a GoPro over his hat. So
yeah. I mean, it's just so weird. Like, if you're getting arrested, the first thing that happens is the police tell you to take off your mask and, like, show yourself type of thing. I mean, this is just really weird. And there's some more weird things coming up, folks. But I just want to postulate perhaps this whole thing was planned, and I could see perhaps Thomas Rousseau getting a lieutenant to call in the call, get them the attention they deserve here.
And I think they did like a demasking one by one.
Did they?
Yeah, that's kind of what this video shows here. But we do have the boots on the ground.
They did, of course, release mug shots of all the guys, but we'll get into that. But yeah, let's play the clips. This is from Dame Madeline, and let's hear it.
This is our CCR special Boots on the Ground report. Now, let's go live.
Hey, Basil and Gons. This is Dame Madeline, Keeper of the Northlands, reporting from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It is Sunday, June 12th, about 5:45 p.m., and I just got back from downtown Coeur d'Alene. You may have seen some dramatic footage over the weekend of a U-Haul truck opening up, and our local police apprehending about 31 Patriot Front members, apparently showing up with the intent to disrupt a Pride in the Park event in downtown Coeur d'Alene. There's quite a few news articles about that, and it's pretty dramatic. And a lot of people are suspicious about it. But I was just downtown with my family about an hour ago, and we ran into apparently a bunch of these guys who were arrested yesterday, and I had a talk with them. So I wanted to kind of give you a boots on the ground report of that. And kind of give you some inside info from talking with their leader, who identified himself as Thomas R. Rousseau. There were about 9 people all wearing these khaki pants and blue shirts. So if you've seen the footage, they were all wearing masks, all wearing the same clothing, and they were all in the same clothing today when we saw them downtown. This time they were unmasked and had some rips and grass stains on their pants. I was going to pull out the speak pipe, but there were quite a few people driving by or walking by and spewing profanity, so I decided against it since this is a family show. I asked them some questions and what they were doing walking around. They'd said that people in their organization paid their bail. Their bail apparently was set at $300 each. According to this Rousseau guy, they've got a court date tomorrow and are facing the charges of conspiracy to riot, which is a misdemeanor in Coeur d'Alene. I asked about their funding, and they said that their funding is all internal and that only members can donate to their organization. They said that their cars were still impounded, and while they had been released, they had not been given back their phones or wallets. That said, they still had plenty of their literature, which they were handing out to pedestrians. I'll send you some pics by email. I got a couple. 2 of them were also actively recording the conversations that they were having with passersby. One had like a chest-mounted GoPro, and another had a small handheld video camera. So I find it interesting that they were not given back, but that they were given back their cameras and their flyers and cards. So that seems suspicious. I asked them why they chose to come to Coeur d'Alene, and Rousseau had 2 things to say. The first was that many of their members love to travel, and number 2, the Coeur d'Alene Pride event was getting a lot of attention, and they thought it would be a good idea to show up to it, probably just to get some recognition for their organization. He spouted on for a bit about how they try to represent the interests of the local communities that they enter. I asked why they chose to make an entrance in a U-Haul truck and wearing masks, and Rousseau said they didn't want their personal vehicles or faces involved or on camera, since Antifa is known to follow them around and destroy property. They didn't want their identities known or property destroyed. They were all walking around unmasked, today, though, and maybe it's because their names have all been released in the news, so they're not super worried about that. He said something about masks being a unifying marker behind their cause, which was interesting. Didn't get a chance to probe about the rumors of feds being involved or whether they actually had smoke grenades, riot shields, or spears like many news outlets are reporting. So he said that someone saw them getting into the U-Haul and called the police. I had seen some reports floating around that federal agents had infiltrated their group chats, and that's how they got caught coming in into downtown Coeur d'Alene. But according to him, someone saw them getting into the U-Haul and called the police. I told him I probably would have done the same exact thing. And I asked why, if they think they try to represent the interests and goals of the communities that they counter-protest in, why they chose such an intimidating way to introduce themselves to Coeur d'Alene, which has had some issues with neo-Nazi groups in the past. What most locals would consider a problem. And his response was that maybe their approach was better for places like Chicago. Our conversation was short, but my take is that this guy Rousseau is kind of a big talker. Some of their stories don't feel cohesive. I'm pretty skeptical. All these guys looked really young, and none of them were from northern Idaho. So anyway, that's my boots on the ground report. Sorry it was kind of long. Really appreciate you guys covering news and teaching us how to think outside the cage. Thanks for all you do. Bye.
There you go.
Well, thank you very much. That was very thorough, and what an opportunity. I mean, this is a national story, and hey, you see the old Confederate soldier kid walking around, you gotta ask him some questions.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dame Madeline. What is her full name again? Full title of something of the Northlands. We got to get this right, man. We got to memorize these knights and dames at the Canary Cry Roundtable of the Knights and Dames. But anywho,
we can need
very
memory
good
cards
report
of them, and then we can practice them with our children at night.
Yeah. Flashcards.
Flashcards. So we were showing some of the pamphlets that were being handed out, and one of them says "Defend American Labor," and it's got a man. It's
really interesting. I was actually going to say I would like to read through some of these.
Yeah,
I'm pulling
especially
them up
the
on my side because it's very interesting to see their. I mean, just interesting to see their material and kind of how they present it, because the presentation almost deserves its own deconstruction.
Yeah,
I'm going to start with the one with the octopus guns.
Okay,
and as far as graphic design is concerned, pretty good graphic design. I mean, the picture of the octopus with the Republicans as one of the eyes, the Republican logo as one of the eyes, the Democrat logo as the other eye of the octopus, and the octopus has its tentacles around an outline of the United States. It's very red, white, and blue. Yeah, very red, white, and blue, minimalistic, but kind of almost has like a bit of a socialist propaganda poster feel to it. And as we read it, I kind of got the vibe that they did it in a way that would be attractive to someone who might identify a little bit more with like a liberal ideology, or maybe even like a socialist ideology. There's some reference, both visually and in the language, was like weird. They're like trying to, connect with like socialist Gen Zers in a way almost. So this one reads like this: 2 parties, 1 tyranny. The party system murdered the American Republic to replace it with a fake democracy ruled by lobbyists, bankers, and unelected bureaucrats. The true rulers of the state never receive any votes. Elections are now only mass illusions of popular sovereignty. The United States is no longer of America. The choice between which color of criminal will sell out America's interests for the next 4 years is no choice worth the brutality of our nation endures to uphold it. Plutocracy reigns in the guise of democracy. Americans have had the true power to change their destiny returned to them. The rejection of the conventional political racket will allow Americans to organize and reclaim our collective liberty and national sovereignty. So the use of organize is very much like a kind of a socialist dog whistle. It may not seem that way if you're not familiar with like socialist literature, but to organize is like the power of the people. To organize is sort of like organize is a socialist rallying cry. So to use that term as like the one way for the people to gain their liberty, really talented rhetoricians over there. Representative government is a corpse beneath the despotism's boot. Tyranny rules in the present, yet a sovereign liberty will claim the future. So very intense language there, and one that's, anybody who's sort of any kind of thinker couldn't necessarily disagree with. We know that the country is mostly actually practically ruled by lobbyists and bankers and unelected bureaucrats. Another word for that in the past has been the deep state and, capitalism, things like this. Anything to note on that side, Guns?
The only thing that came to mind, a couple things actually. One is I noticed that it's very similar to how Alex Mashinsky was being portrayed as this hater of banks and hater of the system, and he did in different words, obviously, with the article. So interesting point there. But also, it's more of a breakdown of this particular page here. There are elements of it, obviously, that can appeal to even, like someone that would listen to this show, even, like the two-party system being...
I don't want to draw too close of a connection, Guns, by the way.
I understand that. That's what I was going to say.
The point is that the rhetorician who put this together very specifically aimed it at someone who might be sort of socialist curious. I mean, organized, they even say collective liberty, like collectivism is a very socialist way of speaking. Continue. So that's what I agree with you. It is like, so it can be accepted by so many people who just simply don't like the way things are going.
Right. Yeah, there are many times that I have stated, hey, don't fall into the two-party system. Right. And so that mindset being the hook, I suppose, to catch people. And
even, just the rejection of the system that is obviously not working, no matter what angle you're looking at it from nowadays.
Right. But I think the giveaway here is they almost say too much. I mean, a lot of these pamphlets, this is just from personal experience. When someone hands me a pamphlet or something like that, if there's a lot of writing, I'm like, man, it's kind of like people that listen to see the 4 hours on our
There's
show.
A lot
and
of
they're
text,
like, man, can't do 4 hours. So I don't think people are really getting into the deep parts of the end there. But the two parties, one tyranny thing, people will read that and at least associate. So
totally
well done in terms of hooking people, I think.
Right. The other side, it gets a little bit more specific.
A little more obvious.
The other side goes like this. It's kind of got that. Yeah. It's got that socialist agit-prop, propaganda, power to the people type of style on the artwork. You've got a big, strong man
with a
using a pickaxe to chip away at some rocks
anarchy
that have
and dollar signs and
and it says defend American labor. Again, some sort of reference to socialism, where it's like, the labor being the base economic unit of Marxism, things like that. And it goes like this: we want lives of honesty and dignity, but all we are offered by the politicians and the corporations both is the imaginary choice between blue-collared squalor and white-collared thievery. Justice will arrive when you no longer must bear witness to the purposeless suffering of your countrymen, when our lives are no longer held hostage at the whim of a merciless mob of corporate paymasters, despicable cops, and their willing sycophants. And so you get to there, you're like, okay, all right, sort of just an anti-establishment type of guy. That's not necessarily uncommon. And up until then, he even has like despicable cops. He might be a defund the police guy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Corporate paymasters. And then it goes into this part. Foreign people the world across are dragged here to be exploited, to be the exploited resources we would not. Okay, he's talking about immigrants being used to do labor that Americans don't want to do. It's not necessarily the craziest thing, but the extra national readily takes all that the bosses give away. When they take our work, our homes, our families, our communities, all they have left to take is our lives. Unless we unite, and we will demand that for which we once begged. It was the laborious man whose bloodshed created America, and it will be no easier to save this nation than it was to make it.
Okay.
So dips just a little bit into...
Hey, so
dips a little bit into these extra nationals, going to take everything away from us, which certainly aligns a little bit better with kind of the white nationalist ideology than our collective liberty and labor organizing. But yeah, that kind of gave it away a little bit.
Oh, and also that last line, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was the laborious man whose bloodshed created America, and it will be no easier to save this nation than it was to make it. Meaning what? We're going to have laborious men bloodshed? He's calling for bloodshed?
Calling for...
Whoa, man.
Seems like he's calling for violence. And there's also one of the sort of inflammatory parts about that is within the most recent sort of social movements, the sort of recognition that, the much of our history, the country was sort of built on the back of slaves. We certainly couldn't have done it any faster if it wasn't built on the back of slaves.
Before robots, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, sorry, human slaves, not robo-slaves. And to sort of transpose that onto... Well, he doesn't exactly say who that gets transposed onto, except for the laborious man. Whose bloodshed created America. It'll be no easier to save this. I mean, even laborious man kind of almost sounds like slave.
It does.
Without using it. So it's like, again, this literature is very well crafted to be pretty, like a bit unclear as far as the details are concerned, but does a good job of capturing the sentiment that can be shared with pretty much anybody living in the formerly known middle class of America. Right. It's really a classist struggle. And that's one of the sort of dangerous parts about, not dangerous, one of the more particularly strong tools that can be used by any group to make a big point, which is, in the social justice movement, pretty much every difference between two people has been pointed out and, if I may, sort of laboriously beat to death as like the battle to fight, whether it be race or religion or sexual orientation or whatever. It's all about all those things. And they're very good distractions from really what is one of the most glaring yet often ignored issues, which is classist struggles, classism. It's not so much about white versus black, but white versus black is a really easy rhetorical device to distract from a class struggle. Right. The class struggle being the corporate lizard overlords, the political elite, the those who create the systems or destroy the systems based on how the position they want to put the lower classes in. So this is really being described in a classist struggle, which has been a very useful way to describe things for all sorts of movements, including socialist movements, Marxist movements, putting the focus of inequality on class rather than race. And yet this one dips just a little bit, just a little bit too far in that sort of extra national rhetoric that kind of gives away the white nationalist aspect of the group.
Yeah.
But very interesting to get your hands on this, Dame Madeline. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And the only thing I can keep thinking about is, whether he did this independently or with the influence or with the help of some intelligence people. I think we're going to, this template, I think, is what we need to pay attention to. Right? With these individuals, their groups. Right now, it's built on the political hot topic, which is race. So it's all white national. Every group that is formed is in this context of protecting America, but ultimately hidden under this America talk is, white national, protecting the white race and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that model of protection, preservation, conserving of whether it's American values or whatever, will transfer over to probably human rights, and not just American, but human. And where I see the robot stuff come in, right? The machines, the robots, the AIs, we will see, and we've seen this in movies, and this is why I think this is like, again, the model, the blueprint will be, we'll start to see, in our lifetimes for sure, we will see groups like this that are formed as a way to push back on, I don't know,
the robot takeover,
conscious robots or whatever. Yeah.
Robot replacement. Yeah. You talk about the term, the great replacement.
Yes. Yeah.
Where it's done in like a racist way now, or it's being sort of framed in that way. But you talk about the robo replacement. Hello.
The robots are sort of like the ultimate socialist soldiers, right? In a sense, they're kind of perfect for that system because they just need what they need. They don't demand more. They work constantly. So I can see groups forming using that same anti-socialist sentiment. But with the intelligence agencies, they want people to merge with the machine. So
this pamphlet really did have like a real think tank vibe to it.
Oh, super think tank.
They want, of course, they always want to present these, these white nationalist organizations or whatever as kind of hillbillies and uneducated and these types of things. Yeah, and whether that's the case or not, the language in this pamphlet is expertly crafted.
It's sophisticated, yeah.
Yeah, it's very sophisticated. So thank you, Dame Madeline, Keeper of the Northlands, for sending in that report, for sending in the pictures of the pamphlet. Really fascinating. And yeah, I don't know. I could easily see it. With all the reading that I did about this Thomas Rousseau fella, I could easily see him calling in his own tip, or having somebody call in for him, as being part of the plan all along. He's very PR focused. He's very, he's a 21st century man for sure. Now, part of Madeline's breakdown was she also sent in a clip that had something interesting. Do we want to go into that, or
we can?
I'm not sure if it's the most important thing.
Yeah, she's got a whole email there. I mean, yeah, all it is, there's video footage. There was footage of Rousseau from this. It was just a guy. I don't necessarily want to play the video. I don't know if there's any profanity in there. But yeah, I was showing the video earlier when we were going through stuff and Madeline was giving her report. But yeah, it's the guys at this point. They're on the grass right next to the road there. They're all on their knees. Their hands are tied back. They all got their masks on with the hats on. And there's some SWAT team guys and police officers walking around. And I think the one point that Dame Madeline pointed out was, I think, at like 8 minutes and something seconds.
8 minutes, 42 seconds. The policeman mentions 33 people holed up in the back of the truck.
Okay, let's see here. Let me get close and let's see.
So skip to 8 minutes and 30 seconds or so to overhear the conversation he's having with someone who was concerned that they'd be arresting the people who were in the other park praying in counter protest. And you'll get the whole sound bite.
Conspiracy to riot. People act together. Okay. There's 15 shields in there, spears and things like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's all about. No, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like at the same time, hey, if I can educate you guys, I mean, we're not going to be going after law-abiding people, but 33 people load up in the back with a bunch of weapons.
Well,
There it is.
Obviously, right,
It's kind of quiet, but yeah, there you go. He was talking
Yeah,
about 33 people.
pieces.
loaded
He
up in the back.
mentions 33 people loaded up in the back of the truck with weapons. Those weapons didn't turn out to be in any of the other reports, interestingly.
Yeah. Let me back it up
Except
here.
for shin
because,
guards.
So, just paying attention to little details, and maybe we're overanalyzing some things, but there was like a butterfly or something on the U-Haul. You know about
Well,
butterflies.
that's U-Haul. They always have a funny paint, like a
extra
graphic
art.
on the side. Yeah, they always have crazy
Okay.
graphics on the
So it
side and
has
some
nothing to do
science
with-
facts about butterflies.
Oh, it's okay.
Unless it's a Project Monarch, MK
Gentle
Ultra.
Ride. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Project Monarch and mind control. So maybe that's there you go. There's a little. Do you know? And there's like a little thing about learn more about all American roads. Okay, great.
Yeah,
It's a
U-Haul,
real
man.
U-Haul.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
looking for
and
that
they
little thing
used-
owned by the FBI.
Oh yeah, this is the FBI license plate.
Yeah.
And this U-Haul thing is strange, but they used it on their other thing too, the Capitol March,
Right.
in December of 21. There was a whole big story about after the march, they all loaded up in U-Hauls and drove away. And it's like, wow,
I
they
remember
really
that. That's right.
Yeah. They
all got
really
in-
have like a system these guys are working with.
Are these? Because they were doxxed, right? But I feel
Alleged.
like they.
I mean, all of their. Here's the thing that was suspicious to me. All of their, what are they called when you get arrested? Mugshots. All their mugshots have been released, but it's kind of weird because like it's really hard to find pictures or video and to see their faces without their masks on. So they did release mugshots, but it's kind of hard to independently verify that the people in the mugshots are the same people who are on their knees outside the U-Haul.
Yeah. I was trying to find there's something about these kids, all kind of just blindly following direction, I guess, with this group. And the whole thing is very suspicious in terms of
all young
like,
guys,
yeah,
just like
young
all the
guys.
other white supremacists, mass shooters are all super young guys.
And there's
Same
just
thing, man.
an actual flesh and blood bots kind of vibe to them. I don't know why. It's just something
Bots, you say?
Bots, yeah. Like they
Bots.
don't they don't have real human qualities or something. They're just
That's
like
racist,
ugh.
Gons.
No, I'm not. Don't
We're
turn
all
me
the
into,
same to you, aren't we? All of us young
You're all
white men.
just part of the
we're
white
all
devil.
we're all just bots. Huh?
You're all just bots in my Matrix game.
Robots with human skin.
It's the bad guys. I just got to squash all of them, and then I
Yeah.
win.